Good evening.
Hello.
My name is Richard McCarthy. Officially, my title is the Director of Planning and Development, but I commonly go as Town Planner, which is the head of the Land Use Department. So what we're planning for this evening is start with the Land Use Department, and then we'll turn it over to Susan Jacobson, who do the affordable housing piece of it. And then last will be the Building Department. So within the Land Use Department, go to, which is comprised of the Board of Health, Planning Board, Conservation Commission, and Zoning Board of Appeals. What slide are you on there? Don't mind. So, if you look at the screen, the Board of Health, and obviously I'm not going to read from it, but you can see they're elected Board of Health members, there's 3 of them. Conservation Commission, they're appointed by the Select Board. The Planning Board is elected, and then the Zoning Board of Appeals is appointed by the Select Board. There is a associate member that's on the Planning Board, and that is a joint appointment between the Select Board and the Planning Board. Associate members on the Planning Board don't have the full voting rights as a full member. By statute, they can only vote on special permits. We'll kind of talk about those as we go along. Zoning Board of Appeals, they have associate members. However, Zoning Board of Appeals members, associates are full voting members for the Zoning Board of Appeals. So if we go to slide 4. So I know that important question for all of you. Not that slide. That fool. Hey, 3. All right, let's go to 3. All right, my bad. It's going to be a dynamic process, I guess, right? So yeah, go to slide 3 with our department structure, right? And then go to the next slide so you can see. A little jazzy. I'm a full-time employee, which is 40 hours a week on salary. With a planning position, it generally is more than 40 hours a week. There's not, because with that position, you need to go to select board meetings, advisory board meetings, conservation meetings, zoning board of appeals meetings, committee meetings, and so forth and so on. So, but beyond, I get paid for 40, but I do spend more than 40 hours doing the job. The next conservation agent's kind of neat, like little .78, which is 31 hours a week. I will tell you that we're grateful to have 31 hours a week. I would love to have more hours for this position from the work that's involved with it, and we kind of get into it. You'll probably get appreciation for that, but anyway, it's 31 hours a week. Next. Aha! The slide turner for me. Betsy Fidgel, who is the
conservation agent?
What's that?
Who's the conservation agent?
Oh, I shouldn't. Well, she's going to introduce herself.
Okay.
She's got a piece. But anyways, Caitlin Nover, she's standing in the back. She'll do her piece when we get to conservation. So Betsy Fidgel, she's the longest tenured person in our department. And probably almost the longest town hall employee at this point, now with retirees. She came in as a teenager, and she's still a teenager. But, so she's 40 hours a week. She's a union employee, paid on an hourly rate. We don't, as you probably should know this, right? They don't get overtime. They can get comp time beyond 40 hours a week. That's how it's structured here, so it's not additional pay. Next. Lady Fidgel's in the back. She's going to take care of the temperature for us. 0.88. Well, essentially that's 35 hours a week, which she works for the Zoning Board of Appeals and the Conservation Commission. And that's it for the folks. Now we'll go to the next slide, which is the fun slide, right? I think it's fun. Go to the next. The budget. So there it is, $350,000 to operate the department, which comes from taxation. Next one, please. Yeah, I think I jazz it up with this, but it's kind of a little, I gotta slow myself down, right? It's like a little fast, but next one, and then I'll talk about it. So as I mentioned, the department's funded through tax revenue and the filing fees. Now, we do collect filing fees, but they don't go directly to the department, they go into the general fund. But we do collect fees on permits that come in. As you see, we're governed by state law, local law, and local rules and regulations. So that's important in many respects. So some of the limitations in terms of what we can do, in terms of, we all can do in terms of permitting is governed by state law. So sometimes that can be fine. Sometimes people get a little bit, I will say, disappointed to the extent sometimes people want to see things regulated, but we are governed by that. Next slide. What do we do? Bingo. We might as well go. Why don't you load all these and then I'll go through. We did. All right. Here we go. So I've kind of touched on some of this stuff already, but it's really coordination of the land use activities, but also a big part of the department is working with citizens as yourself. Because things come in, you want to know.
Application, so they would have to be submitted to make sure endangered species are protected, but that's only for endangered species.
So it's over 2 acres there, right?
Right, and that is not in mapped habitat.
So they didn't find anything,
No.
So general wildlife that you're talking about
So,
is
yeah.
not covered by that at all. That's a really good question too, because I think, just like to pivot off of that, is I talked a little bit earlier about state law. Well, one of the things that's happened in this state and other states is to push for conversion to solar. And because of that, solar companies have a lot more latitude in locating ground-mounted solar, and which includes sites that are wooded. And so the town's ability to stop those is significantly mitigated because of state law that's pushing it out. The program is not set up for directing it towards necessarily a brownfield site. There are incentives to go there, but you will see clear cut going on to put in solar energy. So that's kind of that tug and pull with some of these things that we have to deal with from a land use perspective. Yes, solar energy is really important, and a lot of people believe it's really important, but it does come at the expense right now in some cases to woodland areas. Now, they are starting to put new regulations in place to deal with some of that, but they're playing catch up. So as you kind of live and you're in town, you see stuff's going on, there's a lot of things that we don't have as much oversight to be able to stop some of these things sometimes as you wish. So that's kind of what I think you might have missed when I first came in, but that's a perfect example.
How much is the town making on it?
So the town is, well, they're paying taxes on the solar panels themselves. I'm not sure what the lease, so part of that, they are leasing the, part of the water department property up by the water tank. I'm not sure. We'd have to get back to you on that question.
Put it on your evaluation form.
Yeah.
Try to get an answer for you.
I heard it wasn't much, because it's only a portion of the site.
So they lease, I just so I know, they don't own the land, they lease the land.
No, in this case, they own it. So
They
next
own the
to it, they
land.
own the land.
So
Yep.
property value does go up, and
Property value.
they weren't giving a break over the first 3 years of operation for property values?
No.
Okay, just making sure they weren't giving like a top property value break.
No, they
Just
weren't getting
because
a
they were
property
solar.
break. And then I think it's, and then the panels themselves have a tax value as well. And then in terms
I
of,
think one of the questions is,
Why don't we put that on the form? We'll find out the answer for you.
Because people won't be there, that's the problem.
What do you mean?
We're not gonna see them the following week.
but we'll find out from them. We'll
Okay.
look it up.
All right.
We want you to have the facts. That's the whole goal of this.
Yeah.
We will look it up and we will find out answers.
So I can tell you though, quickly, that question, that power is being put on the grid. So if it makes its way back to you somehow, it maybe is, but it's not being directly, that power is being sold to the,
So it's not lowering power as
No.
residents in the town?
no. But if you do opt in for clean energy as part of the aggregation, then it could trickle its way back to you, but it's not direct. We can, who's next?
Planning board next.
All right, so I'll go back to, I'll do planning board. I'll go next to planning board.
Okay.
And then, is there any other?
Any other questions?
I do have a question. Actually, I don't have a question. I have a comment. I think it's important. I was thinking about you. Oftentimes, people come in the office and say that there's conservation land behind me. And there is conservation land, but oftentimes the land is under jurisdiction of conservation. They don't actually own the land. It's kind of I just wanted to add that in. That's a very common misconception that, oh, it's conservation land. It's private property, it's just under the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission. So you might hear that, so.
That's a good point.
All right.
Thanks. Donna?
There's federal wetlands, there's state wetlands, and then Norfolk has an inland wetland restriction.
Right.
What makes it different, and do we treat it special?
So, federal wetlands, we don't really deal much with those in the state. That's for other states that don't have their own state wetlands protection law in place. Any federal wetland will be covered under one of the resource areas that's outlined in our State Wetlands Protection Act. And then the inland restricted wetlands, I'm not as familiar with. I know the town has a number of them that were put into place in the mid-1970s, I believe. And those protect areas around resource areas. In particular, in this town, they protect upland buffer areas around our ponds and water bodies.
Go to planning board. Oh, hey, look. We have an honorary guest tonight with us. We have a planning board member. How about that? Gary Sullivan, the vice chair of the planning board. We didn't even plan that, so.
I said stop by. You did not mention that it was about planning board, or they could call my name out in public.
What was that? I didn't mean, oh, all right, well, we'll put you on the spot, no. So as I kind of touched on a little bit earlier, so the planning board is involved in reviewing projects, whether it's a commercial development, mixed use, or subdivisions. In terms of subdivisions that, we call them conventional subdivisions, but essentially it's division of the land based on the lot sizes for the different residential zoning districts. So we have a 30,000 square foot residential district. We have an acre district, which is 43,560 square feet, and then a 55,000 square feet residential district. The subdivisions, when I say conventionally, is they plan a road and they divide the land based on those lot area minimum sizes. The planning board does permit open space subdivisions, which are how many lots you could get on a piece of property is still based on that underlying area for your wherever you may live, but allows them to reduce the lot in terms of the lot that the house will be located on, and then the remaining land becomes open space. In some cases, open space might be deeded to the Conservation Commission, to the town, and under their control. In other instances, it might be a homeowners association. There is, if you go on Medway Street, there's Norway Farms, if you're familiar with that at all, in that area. There's a 14-lot subdivision. That one is the third version, which is that's under association. They own it. But the idea is to try to reduce the size of the lots in terms of where your house is located to preserve larger pieces of land for wildlife and just open space enjoyment, and not clearing all the land when you try to build the houses. the planning board is heavily involved, as you probably know, about drafting bylaws. You've probably been to town meeting with many of the bylaws. There's some bylaws that are coming up for the fall. 2 bylaw changes. One is, which it might be worth talking about a little bit, but I'll wait to the end. And I did talk about special permits before. So, for instance, special permit would be a use special permit. So, for instance, if you want to have a commercial vehicle this is on commercial property. So if you want to have more than one commercial vehicle in a commercial district, it would trigger a special permit through the planning board. So they would be the ones that would be administering that permit. A special permit is one that the planning board can say no on. It's not the other type of permit is by right. So that's it goes through a review process, but ultimately at the end of the day, they're going to be able to get a permit to do what they want. So maybe they want to put in a sandwich shop or a restaurant or a commercial building. As long as it's allowed by right, they'll get the permit at the end of the day. Important fact about town, every street in Norfolk except 1A and 115 is a scenic road. And so what that means is if you want to alter a stone wall or take trees down that were in the right of way, you have to go through the planning board to have a scenic road hearing to be able to remove the stone wall or cut down the tree within the public right of way. And it's also, the permit gets in conjunction with the DPW department in terms of reviewing it where it is, particularly when it's going to be a new driveway opening. If you want to follow along, the November meeting, there will be a project, a single-family home. I know many of you probably know about it because I saw a lot of commentary on Facebook. It was on Fruit Street. You probably heard all these trees being cleared, right? Somebody in this room must have known about it. Does anybody know of this one?
It's right down the road from me, yes.
All right. So that house is being demolished, and they're going to construct a new house. They cleared the property more than an acre. So under the stormwater bylaw that we deal with the rain, you can't clear more than an acre without getting a stormwater management permit. They're before the planning board right now. They're also going to be before the planning board for a scenic road hearing to relocate the driveway. It is just a single family home. I know people were kind of wondering, and that was kind of one of those things like, hey, what's going on? Are they planning this? It literally is just tearing the house down and putting a new home up in there. So the planning board deals with that.
Excuse me, how wide is the public way from the street?
So it's going to vary, okay? Because our roads are pretty old. They're probably anywhere it's between 33 feet, which is 3 rods, to 40 feet, upwards of 50 feet. So the pavement and then beyond the pavement is still in the public right-of-way. So oftentimes you see the grass strip. So it's a good question, actually. Because people, first-time home buyer, they come, they buy the house, and then they're like, hey, there's this grass strip in front of my house. It's not really yours, it's a town, and there's kind of a understanding in a way, like, but you'll maintain it because it's in front of your house. But technically, you don't own it. And it's part of the public way. So it'll vary. The typical road is 24 feet in width. Sidewalk generally on one side, 5 feet, and then there's a grass strip, excuse me, that's around 3 feet in width. So that's not all roads are public ways either, so we do have some private ways in town. Yes?
So you mentioned the grass strip,
Yep.
right, on one side of the street.
Mm-hmm.
If the town comes in and plants trees, let's say maple trees, on that grass strip, which happens a lot,
Yeah.
and the trees get so big they rip up the sidewalk and the road, isn't that the town's responsibility if it's not, right?
Yeah, it is. Yep.
So to
So-
pull up the tree, fix the sidewalk, the road?
It is. So kind of lessons learned is that the planning board over time, the trees they're great, right? You have these street trees
And they're great when they're small.
when they're small, and then as they grow bigger, it depends on the species, then they kind of move up, and then they pick up the sidewalk, and now the sidewalks get ruined. What the planning board now, over time, is they actually don't put them in the grass strip. They'll put them behind the sidewalk, so it's out of there. And even in some cases, because we have a limited budget, right? There's only so much money to go around, is that they'll get planted as part of a house on their own lot, but they'll, in essence, seem like they're a street tree. So there's that's kind of, I would call it, kind of a fix, so to speak, because of the issue that you're talking about. It's kind of a lesson learned in terms of roads, roadway construction. Master plan, probably most of you, or all of you actually, I shouldn't say most of you, probably participated in the master plan last year. That was done. That plan is similar to the open space plan, which is 10 years. It's really that big blueprint of what the town would like to be over the next 10 years. It covers transportation, housing, open space, cultural issues, government, and so forth. The planning board, which is on their to-do list, is actually to move forward to create an implementation committee to kind of oversee it, to make sure the goals, aspirations townspeople would like to see are met, or as you dig further, it's maybe economically not feasible, or something may come up where you might not be able to achieve it. That's one of the things that the planning board is responsible for, and they'll be working on that going forward. And then last, they are a member of the Community Preservation Committee as one of the members. So they delegate one of their members to serve on the Community Preservation Committee. I'm going to go a little faster in the next one.
Hey, Rich.
Yeah.
I have a question on waivers.
Yeah.
Planning board last night, you mentioned the different subdivisions, and some of them had 30 or 40 waivers to build. And that was a discussion with Peter Diamond. Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
And so I was just wondering what comprises those waivers? And are any of them, in your mind, significant? Are they an issue for us?
So the planning board held a public hearing on making some changes to the inclusionary bylaw, and one of the residents was before the board talking about waivers as part of development. So in that case, those were 40B developments, which they can override local bylaws and regulations, and that's where those waivers come in. Some of them, yeah, I'm sure I think the one that he's particularly referring to, yes, they got a lot of waivers. Two where they located those developments, single-family homes were not allowed. So they were there's two, maybe somebody lives in Boyd's Crossing here, I don't know if they do or not, or the village of Norfolk. So I'll just use those as two examples. They're both in the town center business district. That type of single-family home is not allowed use. The developer went through a 40B process to permit both of those developments that are there today. And those are those waivers that he's talking about.
And they're not allowed under our bylaws. That's the
Right.
point, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they have to make justifications for the waivers. It's not just a blanket thing, and
Are any of them significant in your mind?
I'm not sure, actually, because honestly, those two developments overall, they would probably say that they're all privately maintained. So in terms of town service-wise, they gotta take care of their own trash. They've got to maintain the stormwater system. They got to plow the street, the roads that are in there. The town's not providing those kind of services, so if I'm over here as a general taxpayer, I'm like, yeah, that's great. I don't have to, my tax dollar's not going. Now, for them, they probably wish they were paying, towns like this.
Is there something preventing them from in the future for getting voted in for that road to become a public road where now we're responsible for it? Because that happens every once in a while, a private road becomes public. So do we make sure as a town we protect ourselves to say, no, in 10 years, we're not going to take this over. You own this road
Yeah.
for the next 30 years and we won't take it over.
In both those examples, no, they won't be accepted, because technically,
Okay.
everything is condo there, there is no lots. Everything is on one piece of property, so the houses, they have their exclusive areas with their homes,
Sure.
but it's all one piece of property, so no.
Okay, so like no private roads that will end up taking over in the
No,
future?
they'll
Okay.
remain as private
Okay.
for those. So that's kind of where those waivers come in when it's a 40B development.
So is it just density then? I mean, I'm still having trouble with,
What they are?
yeah.
Yeah, so well, the first one is definitely density.
Yeah.
Okay. Number of sidewalks, so in a subdivision, 2 sidewalks are required.
In the bylaws?
In the regulations, so not in the bylaws. So, good question again. So you have the bylaws, which kind of is the larger framework, then the regulations go under them in terms of how a subdivision is, the standards, we call the regulations. That's where the sidewalks come into play. That's we have 2. The curbing, for example, is granite curbing. That's a standard. They'll request a waiver of that. They may request a waiver of how wide that little grass strip is.
So it's nothing really significant. It's a lot of detail.
Yeah, it's more detail. Yeah, it's not.
That's what's
I mean,
in
the
the
biggest
bylaw?
significance thing I would say is obviously the density, right? That's the
Yeah,
biggest
yeah.
thing. Because, you go from a property, for example, and I think it's a good example, just thinking about it. There was a subdivision that Cranberry Heights was the name of it, is the name of it. It was before the planning board a few years ago. It's out it's actually off of Cranberry Meadow Road and Eagle Drive. I don't know if you know where those 2 are. So it was Cranberry Heights. It was going to be a 21 lot open space subdivision. And we did talk about this the other night too, by the way, the inclusionary bylaw. There was, and I think probably some of you might know Buckley Man. You familiar with that property that's on Lawrence Street? Which was a former mill that there's contamination. So when that developer came before the planning board, there was concerns about, because Cranberry Meadow Road doesn't have, they're all on their own wells. And they were gonna bring up water up Cranberry Meadow Road, which is a lot of rock, so there was concerns about blasting and whether that may harm their own drinking water supply, because they have wells. So long story short, the planning board was trying to get assurances from the developer. The developer said, yeah, I can't do this. It's too risky. There's too much risk because I can't protect all these different single-family homes. So they actually got which is kind of interesting, a denial with prejudice means you can't bring the plan back. That's a plan detail you probably don't really, it's not a big deal to you. But anyway, where I'm going with it is the inclusionary bylaw got changed where it scales up, which is presently on the books. So it's 6 to 12 units at 10%. That's the 10% of affordable housing, which kind of ties a little bit with the ZBA, where 10% of those homes in that subdivision have to be to low and moderate income families making 80% of the median income. They need to be part of that development or somewhere else. Then it went from 13 to 19, where it would go up to 15%. And then anything over 20 lots or units becomes 20%. Well, interesting enough, what happened was, this is 20 units, so now it went up to 20% under this bylaw that came by citizen petition a few years ago. So what is the effect of that? The effect of that is the developer came to the planning office and said, you know what? This is uneconomic for me. I can't go back to that subdivision, so I'm gonna file a 40B. So they filed a 40B with the state, and now they have an eligibility letter to come for 51? 51 single-family homes. That one bylaw changed. We went from 21 potentially to 51. That's a significant difference. Why is it a significant difference? Because what it is, it's a single-family home development. Single-family home development, like I live in one. I got those kids now. They're getting older, but we all, not all of us have kids. I know some of you all here don't have kids, but they kind of add, right? So kids come out of houses, costs. We're looking at the budget. All these things kind of add. And when it's 40B, school costs, you can't, that's just the cost of doing business. for us as all as taxpayers. You have to educate those students. So that bylaw, in effect, has kind of changed the table a little bit. So that's when we talk about, you know, the big picture plan and so forth. So I just want to share that with you, because that's actually probably not going to be on the fall town meeting, or maybe it will be, we'll have to see. But I understand it wasn't voted favorably last night. But it ties into the last thing that's on here, which again is 40B. We also have Pondville Crossing. You heard of the 200-unit multifamily apartment development over on Valley Street, Pine Street? No? Maybe not? I'm going to tell you about it now. It ties into this. So the Valley Street, Hill Street, and then Pine Street's 115 going to Foxborough. If you go by that way and you see that barren kind of, there's nothing there, got the trees got removed. That's a location of a 200-unit multifamily 40B development.
Didn't we just vote on that in April?
Yeah, I'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
Yep, good segue, thank you. We didn't plan this. So they had proposed, and they have an eligibility letter for 200 units. What we did do, what Ben was talking about, is go to the May town meeting to change it to the MBTA zoning overlay, which, you know, that's a whole nother topic, but anyway, it reduces the density down to 140 versus 200. And that, and I at least can tell you right now, last discussions with the developer, they plan to go that route, so.
But they still could go 200, right? They get to choose either 40B or other.
They could choose other. However, I think we've gotten past the last hurdle, which I think is important for you just to understand. And Matt will get to that when he gets to the Board of Health. But 10,000 gallons a day, that's a magic number when it comes to wastewater. I'm not going to take all that's going to be Matt when he just talks about the Board of Health. But needless to say, that development was going to have a packaged wastewater treatment plant, and which those are very expensive, so that drives up density, which is kind of one of the challenges. Now, I think we have pretty confident we've solved it to be able to not do a packaged treatment plant and bring the density down for that neighborhood. Because they also have 59 units there that's right next to it. So 259 units in that area, which if you drive around there, that's pretty significant. That's a major change to that section of town. Again, that bylaw played a part in that direction.
Can I ask a question about this too?
Sure.
With your conversations going on with the developer, I know there's no, if we go back to affordable income housing, they don't have a limit on how many 3 bedrooms they can build. Have they determined how many? I know there's like a weird stipulation with 40B, they can only do so many, a percentage,
Yeah.
but when you go with affordable housing, you can, it's
So
unlimited.
under the MBTA zoning, you don't have to do 3 bedrooms.
Right, but you can.
You can.
Okay.
They're gonna do 1 and 2s.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't know what
I
was
mean,
coming on.
honest, so to be frank about it, a lot of the developers, in many cases, they're not necessarily interested in doing 3 bedroom, because there's a big demand for 1 and 2 bedrooms in the area for rental. But because it's 40B, you're mandated to do at least 10%.
Right.
So in that regard, it helps them.
And the concern for everybody else is the number of children you might have that go into the schools, right?
Right.
That's
Right.
the concern.
Right, exactly.
That's why I questioned about the 3 bedrooms, because that opens, then
Right.
you usually have more children coming in if 3
Right,
bedrooms.
so now that it's 1 and 2 bedrooms, lower likely, can't say absolutely it won't be,
Right.
but less probability, right? So, and, go ahead.
So, how close, 140 units seems like still a hell of a lot of units down there. And how close does that get us to the threshold where we can tell the state to go pound sand?
It doesn't.
Okay, now,
It doesn't count in the threshold?
So here's the trade-off, okay? The MBTA goes down to 140 for that development, but you only get 10%, because you can't count them all under the
10% go to the threshold.
The threshold. So we're making progress, we're not, now conversely, if it was the 40B, you do get to count all 200 units, but it also has a much more sizable impact on the town, so that's kind of the,
So it's 14 versus 200?
yeah,
That's a big difference.
it is a big
Does
difference.
200 put us over the threshold?
No,
200 units in town still doesn't put us?
no, because every time stuff has happened, you're adding more. It goes
Right.
like this.
Yeah.
But I don't want.
Because I asked that question.
You know what? Just hold that more for Sue. I don't want to take, that's hers. So,
Can I ask a question though about this whole MBTA thing?
Yeah, sure.
And it's going to bring up the Park Street Bridge because we adhere to this if this goes through and we go with this MBTA and we show them, hey, we're working to do this zoning thing that the state is requiring us to do. Why is the bridge not fixed when we were promised monies from the MBTA? Like, is there any way to say, yes, we have this approved, but no, you need to get us funding for the bridge before we actually allow construction to happen? Like, play the game with them. I'm just wondering why that bridge, because it's not even on STIPS, so it means that bridge has no funding till at least 2030. So that bridge is down for the next 5 years because there's no money. So like, there has to be a way that we passed it as citizens to say, we'll pass this if the MBTA gives us money, because that's what they were promised. That's what we were promised as a town. So we passed it, we would get funding, but now we've passed it and we're still not getting funding. So like, I don't know if there's a way the town can come back and be like, okay, we passed this, we're not gonna let them build till you start at least doing something with the bridge. Find us funding. Because you promised us funding if we pass this bill.
yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but the
No,
bridge
it's
thing,
fine.
we don't have funding for, there's no funding for 5 years for that, so.
No, I know.
It's not, and
I
that's
wish
not
I could tell you
a
that
lie,
we-
that's just the truth.
Yeah,
That
I
bridge is
wish
down
we-
for 5 years minimum.
I know. I wish I could tell you that we could do that, but we can't, unfortunately.
But why? Try, like, you gotta try, at least fail, and then you
Well,
can
I'm
say
not saying we're
try.
not trying, but I'm saying to like hold that up. Yeah.
But try.
Yeah.
What, the worst they can say is no,
Yeah. I
right?
I think that's where, you know, as you as citizens, definitely to reach out to your local delegation, right? Our rep and senators say, look, this is an issue. And have them, because this is part of
There's a
the,
lot of false promises from the state we get, and it's frustrating. Like, we
No, I-
adhere to their laws, but then they get to do whatever they want, and it sucks as a town.
no, I understand. I understand, but I will say that you have voices and definitely let them.
Well, I think what Ben is saying, you.
No, I know what he's saying.
You
I
have
said-
you have a bigger voice than us. You can stop, if you can stop them and say, we're not gonna build this.
We'll approve you, but you
So I
can't start
can't, I
construction.
have a nice, it's a good sized voice, but I don't have that voice to tell them.
But like,
to
I mean,
stop.
like,
Can't do it.
play the game of, hey, we'll approve this, we get it's happening, we like the plan that you come up with, but you can't start building until you get funding for the bridge. I don't even care if the bridge gets fixed that day, but like,
Yeah.
at least show us there's funding for it and you're doing something.
Right.
Because that bridge is a big, like, it impacts our fire department, our police department, our school system. Like, that bridge is that's an arterial in our road. It's the number 2 arterial in our road, in our town.
I definitely, it doesn't mean we're not gonna stop to try to get it, just to make that nexus between the
Sure.
two. We're not
Sorry,
gonna be able to
I know
do
we
it.
segued off.
That's all right.
But it is the nexus that we can't do. We are meeting with MBTA actually next week. Mike and I are meeting with MBTA and having those conversations, but I can't make you promises.
Sure, no, I get that.
Anything will
I get
happen.
it.
We are having meetings, we are doing those things, but we can't have this contingent upon that because there's laws
Sure.
that affect those
Yeah,
decisions.
as long as we're trying, that's what I just want to see, is everybody
Oh.
trying to get that bridge fixed.
I think we need to watch them.
Yeah, I'm watching time. I'm giving myself the hook. Go to Matt. We can hold the question, sorry.
So.
I'm gonna go to Matt for Florida Health.
Hey, Rich? Rich,
Yeah,
she has a question. She wants to know if you live in town.
Do you live in town?
I do not.
You do not?
No, I live in North Attleboro.
Pam, can you answer Pam's question too?
Oh,
just have a really short, quick.
all right.
I've been listening, and
Yeah.
the reason I moved to Norfolk is because it's so beautiful, there's so much open space. So I have a question. Is there a place, is there a point, is there a percentage where someone's gonna say, okay, we're maxed out, this is it? Or all the space is gonna get filled because the state says this, or because the developers offer this, or because, is there a time? Is there a spot? Is there an amount of land that's gonna be left undeveloped? And what guard dog is watching the hen house?
Yeah, so it's a great question.
Thank you.
And I will say that because the town has, lot sizes at 30, an acre, 55,000, that will reduce the overall amount of development that will occur over time. We don't have sewer outside in those rural areas, so that will help do it. But ultimately, it's a strategy in terms of have people develop smartly, buy and so here's the thing. Sometimes you may need to buy the property to prevent it from development, because I'm gonna just tell quick, well, let me take that later. Let's follow up with that question. It's a bigger question, but it's
Really love
important.
to know.
No, it is an important question, so.
So, in the Midwest, there's something called walking tacos. You take a bag of Doritos and you crunch it up. You cut it across, you turn it sideways, you cut it across the top, and you can put the taco meat right in there. And there's walking tacos for you if you'd like. If you'd rather have it on a plate, there's a plate. Why don't we take like a 5, 6, 7-minute break, get some food, use the restroom, stretch our legs, and spend it.
So I'm just gonna give a kind of overview of what some of the things the Board of Health does, the majority of.
Okay.
And then Norfolk's in a little bit of a different situation than a lot of towns in Massachusetts as far as how the Board of Health staff is structured and made up. We're in agreement with 2 other towns, so I'll get into that too. So I do the environmental side of the Board of Health. There's another inspector, Carrie McKay. She does more of the sanitation side. The environmental side is predominantly septic systems and wells, a little bit with some lake water too, but for the most part it's septic systems, wells. And then the sanitation side, that deals with food inspections, housing inspections, camp inspections. And then there's a whole nother part to the Board of Health, and that's public health nurses. And Jeanine will give a little talk about the nursing side of things too. So on the environmental side with the septic systems, we do the perk tests, the percolation tests. So if your septic system fails, or any of like the new subdivisions, new construction, or if you're adding on to your home and you have to do an upgrade and put a new septic system in, usually your first call would be to an engineer, civil engineer. They would file a perk test application with the town, and we schedule. We go out with a excavation company with a machine. We'll dig 1 or 2 holes in the ground. We usually try to get at least 10 feet deep, and we do that for a number of reasons. One, we're looking for how deep the groundwater is, and there's a couple different ways you can determine that. One is obvious water that comes right into the hole. That's very clear-cut groundwater. Another way is through basically like a rust coloring on the side of the hole. And basically when the seasonal high groundwater has come up and purged as high as it can go, it leaves like a rust deposit in the soil, and we can see that in the hole. So we look for the groundwater. We also look for the soil consistency and structure. So that plays a big part into how large of a septic system you're going to need. So there's 2 pieces of the size of your septic system. One is the soil and the permeability of the soil, and the other part is how many bedrooms you have in the house, or if it's a commercial building, what type of company or industry or what is commercial operation that's going in there. There's about a 2-page, 3-page part of the state sanitary, Mass DEP's sanitary code for septic systems, which is Mass Title V, that outlines the flow rates based on the type of commercial operation and whatnot. After we've evaluated the soil, we run the actual percolation test, and that runs, we dig a hole. It's about 18 inches wide and 18 inches deep, and we pour water in. We have to pre-soak, we call it, that hole for 15 minutes. If the soil's usually like sand and gravel, sometimes we can't actually get it to saturate, which if you don't have high groundwater is very good. That's going to give you the smallest footprint, so you'd be unable to saturate in 15 minutes. If you can saturate and you get to that 15 minutes and we haven't gone through the 25 gallons of water, then we run the test. We measure how long it takes the water to drop from 12 inches to 9 inches, and then again from 9 inches to 6 inches. We get our percolation rate, and then there's a chart, again in that same Title V code with the state, that gives certain multipliers, and that also helps determine the size of your septic field. Basically, it all comes down to how quick that soil can absorb a certain amount of water. So that way you don't have a 3-bedroom house that should be designed for a septic field that's, say, 700 square feet, but, you know, you don't really know, and you put in 400 square feet, next thing you know, your system lasts 2 years and it fails. So that's the initial phase of trying to figure out what has to go in for a septic system. And with the bigger projects, like was just being discussed, there can be shared systems as well. So there's no public sewer in Norfolk. So you're either gonna have your own septic system on your own lot, it's a private, single-family septic, or there's some subdivisions that can be on a shared system or private sewer. Locally, we govern up to 10,000 gallons a day and below. Over 10,000 gallons a day, we have no jurisdiction or authority over it. That goes to Mass DEP. They're the ones that come out, do the perk test, they review the plans, they do everything. We'll usually get notification of the project going on. That's the extent of it. So under 10,000 gallons a day falls under our jurisdiction. If it's a larger shared system, we'll do more holes, more perk tests. But basically the plan, permitting is all through us. Once that perk test is done, that civil engineer goes back, they draw a plan, and they submit it to the Board of Health. I then review that plan to make sure that it's compliant with the state code as well as our local Title V regulations that we have, and that the way it's drawn is appropriate. So little checks and balances. For the most part, our engineers are really good. We don't really have too many problems. Sometimes there's some typos. CAD and computers can get a little confusing, and sometimes the wrong number will go in there, but that's our job to make sure that everything was drafted properly and the numbers all work. Once that plan is approved, a permit's issued. That permit's good for 2 years, and a licensed septic installer can come pick the plan up and install your system. When the system's installed, I go out and do inspections. I look at the tank. If you have to get a new septic tank, I look at the tank. And then once the excavation, so when we look at that soil structure, there's different layers. So usually your first 2 layers of soil have to get removed. We need 4 feet of naturally occurring soil to utilize or to put the septic system in. Sometimes that excavation may only be a couple feet, sometimes it may be 8 or 10 feet deep. And then sand is brought in to build that up to the level that it's needed. But before sand is brought in, I go out, I make sure that that level has been brought down to where it's supposed to be, that the size has been excavated to the right size. The installer goes ahead, they fill it in, they'll build the whole system before it's covered up. I'll go out, look at the whole system again to make sure it's been built properly and according to the plan. The engineer then also goes out, they take all their measurements to give us an as-built plan. Basically, that's the plan that says this is exactly how it was built. So generally, they're pretty close to the actual plan. The engineer will submit that plan to us, I look at that, and then a certificate of compliance is issued once we get all the paperwork in and everything looks good. So that's the septic system process and permitting in a real quick nutshell. I do wells as well. Most of Norfolk's on town water. We do have some private wells, and then irrigation wells. If you're looking to put a well in, application gets submitted to us. We get a plot plan, shows where the well location is. I review that to make sure that it's in compliance with all the setbacks. And then if it's a potable well for drinking, that well has to get tested. We get those test results to make sure that the water is adequate and safe. When you go to sell your home for a septic system, you have to get a Title V inspection. It's basically something that comes out, they evaluate your septic to make sure that it's functioning properly and is not in failure. A 17 or 18 page report, depending on attachments, gets submitted to the Board of Health. I review it to make sure that it's complete and accurate as best as what the Title V inspector submits. And if it passes, you're good. There can be a conditional pass, so sometimes your septic tank could be leaking, the distribution box, it's a small precast concrete box about yay big. The gases from the septic system corrode that cement pretty easily. So So conditional pass would be that little box has to be replaced. Same process of permits pulled, septic installer will put it in, I go out, I take a look, make sure it's done properly, you get a certificate of compliance. If it's a failure, you'd start the process of putting a new septic system in. Same for if you have a private drinking well, at sale of a home, that well has to be tested. We get those test results. I evaluate them to make sure everything is good. Our drinking water level standards, there's the federal EPA. They have set standards. The state has set standards, and then locally we have standards as well. The state can't be less stringent on their regulations than federal, and similarly, local, we can't be less strict than federal or state, we can be more strict. So there's also primary and then secondary levels within the water testing. Primary would be, it's no good, something has to be done, whether a retest, if it's, say, bacteria, well has to be chlorinated and then retested. If it's a different compound, maybe filtration. If it's a secondary containment level, so sodium is a really big number that usually exceeds the minimum value. That's a secondary containment or contaminant. That doesn't necessarily require filtration or anything. What can be done is a notification is required to whoever's buying the home. So it's, I think, 20 milligrams per liter. A lot of times we'll see 40, 50, 60 milligrams per liter. We just have a notification sheet that's signed and by the seller and the buyer. That way they're aware, mainly for health factors. You know, if you have high blood pressure, it may not be the best idea to drink the water that has a little higher sodium level. So that's the private wells.
Can I ask you a question on the private wells?
Sure.
The regulations in the private wells, does our town public water at least adhere to the same standards?
So they have to fall, so that's the water department, they have to submit testing regularly to Mass DEP.
Right, but does it, like, I know we have
Yes.
levels for private wells. Does our public well at least meet those same standards that we require for private wells?
At the state level, yes.
Okay, but not at the town level? They're more stringent for private wells?
Ours are more in terms of like setbacks, not,
Okay. Sure,
not
that-
the actual levels,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah, all right, cool.
So that's on the environmental side. Sanitation side, the big task is really the food inspections. Every food establishment, whether it be food service, so the restaurants, or retail would be the variety store across the street. They all get inspected at least twice a year. If there's deficiencies or violations during the inspection, the inspector will go back, given a certain amount of time, depends on the violation. Things that are more critical, they may have 24 hours to fix. Things less critical, they could be 30 days to fix, but the inspector will go back, verify that the corrections have been made, or put a plan in place to get them corrected. And of course, any complaints that we get in, every complaint that we take inspection is done to make sure that whatever the issue is, it's rectified. We do license and permit summer camps. I think we have, what, 3 camps? 6. It can fluctuate. Some are just 1-week sports camps. Others, like the Audubon, they run almost the entire summer, a different week or different session each week. But we have another, again, state regulation that governs the summer camps for children. Oh, next slide. So Norfolk is in an agreement, an intermunicipality agreement with towns of Wrentham and Franklin for our health department. And our alliance is called the Metacomet Health Alliance, Public Health Alliance. So basically what happened was in 2019, the state of Massachusetts started looking at boards of health and our functionality on the day-to-day operations and our staff. And what was being found was that it was inadequate. So they developed a very lengthy document that is basically the blueprint for public health excellence. And when COVID-19 happened, that really made it take off. And in it, it outlined Board of Health structures and what would be considered to be adequate to be able to get the job done to make sure that public health and safety is maintained at an appropriate level, but also the qualifications for the staff. A lot of towns had health agents who really weren't qualified in any way, and it's no offense to them, but it's actually very complex and a lot of things going on, industry, if you will, and you really need the right qualifications and education to be able to do the job properly and at the best of the ability. So the state put requirements for staff and also how the state feels towns should be structuring their health departments. And part of it was a lot of the smaller towns can't justify full-time staff. They just don't have the business, they don't have the volume of work. So what the state was trying to do is to push towns to get together. So two small towns, maybe they each had part-time people or contractors, they could get together and hire one full-time person who's actually going to be educated to the right level, credentialed to the right level, and actually be present and more committed to the towns on a full week basis. So Wrentham and Norfolk, prior to early 2021, had contractors. Food contractor, he'd come in periodically just enough to get a couple inspections done. The environmental person, he was contracted by all three towns, but was only here 2 days a week. It was very minimal. Again, just enough to get by at the minimum. So what happened during COVID-19 is the state decided that they really needed to push towns to try to get together and share services. So they now have the Public Health Excellence Grant, which is funded, or the Metacomet Public Health Alliance is funded through. And so we get grant money to help offset the cost of our staff. So basically how it works is when we entered our intermunicipality agreement, there's now an advisory board, and each town is represented by a member of the department. So I represent Wrentham. The health director in Franklin represents Kathleen, she represents Franklin, and Richard McCarthy represents Norfolk. We have quarterly meetings to just discuss where each town's needs are at. Do we need to shift, our hours differently between the towns? What's working, what's not? Make sure that our inspections are being done properly and fairly and equitably between the towns. Is there anything
How
else?
is the cost split up?
How's the what?
How's the cost split up between the three towns?
So Wrentham is the host community. So Wrentham manages the program. Then it was looked at, the three towns in 2021 got together and looked at the needs for each town and determined the hours of what the staff is going to do for each town. So I'm about a 60-40 split between Wrentham and Norfolk. Wrentham's a little bit, has more work. The sanitary inspector, she does 7 or 8 hours in Norfolk. I believe 14 hours in Franklin, and I think 14 hours in Wrentham. The good part of this is that although there's a general set number of hours, if something comes up outside of the town's allotted hours, that inspector can come over and be flexible. So that way the needs are always being met. It's not, well, the sanitary inspector is only here on Thursdays, you're only going to see them Thursdays. If something comes up on a Tuesday, she's able to leave, Wrentham, she's in Wrentham on Tuesday. She can come over to Norfolk and take care of a complaint or an inspection if needed. So that's the good part of how it works.
And the advisory board works just like any advisory board in town. You advise the town on what they should do.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So part of the advisory board, that's why there's one member from each town. And when we get together, we always say, how is it working for each towns? Is there more of a need or demand for, the inspector in Norfolk versus Franklin? And we adjust the hours accordingly, if need be.
Do you get involved with the air quality of the public buildings? Like if there's mold or some other problem in the air quality of public
So
facilities?
any public building is outside of the local jurisdiction that falls under state jurisdiction. So any issue with the schools, with air quality, or Norfolk Correctional Institution, that all falls under state authority, not local.
You do like Elks Club or the vet, and vet and stuff like that, American Legions.
For
Air quality?
So we don't handle air quality here. Any commercial business or anything like that, if there's a question about air quality, that would fall under OSHA.
I have a question.
Yep.
So I know Andy's got, one of his off buttons is forever chemicals in the water. Are we tracking those in the Norfolk water supply?
They do monitor it, yes.
And how they've been doing?
You'd have to talk to the water department. That falls out of my jurisdiction.
Okay, that's the water department?
Water department, yeah.
Who would be the person to, is that under the highway department?
Yeah, DPW. I don't know who they would,
That'd
that
be
would
Al?
vary, but
Yeah, water super, Al.
Al Finney? Okay.
it is tracked and monitored.
Because there's a CCR, isn't there a CCR report you guys put out?
The water department.
Water department does that too, lead in the water and all that stuff?
Yep.
Okay.
Follow up to Kathy's question, are any of our town taxes paying for the Health Alliance?
Yes, I think that's next slide.
That they've said this was grant funded.
Yeah.
Predominantly grant funded. So approximate cost for the department to run is about $67,000, and that's funded through taxes and filing fees. I'm not sure. I know a good part of that is through filing fees.
And most of that salary? Let's say out of the 66,800, most of that is salary.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that for the Metacomet, public health?
So that contributes towards it, yes. So
That's
that,
Norfolk's.
that's Norfolk's contribution towards it. So the state funds a good part of it, and then the towns each have to kick in a little bit to help offset.
A little bit.
So that covers myself, the sanitary inspector, Kerry, and the nurses program as well.
What's your total budget then? Do you know?
The Metacomet budget is around $419,000. An exact 100% figure, I don't off the top of my head, but it's
But
around.
this is mandated by the state, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just good to know if something mandated. that
So we fall under, we're governed by, we have to enforce state and local
Sure.
laws and regulations. We're required to do food inspection, we're required to do Title V, everything's required.
Right.
Obviously you need staff to.
But this Metacomet needed to be set up in 2001 mandated by the state.
That was not mandated by the state.
Okay.
It was decided between the towns. I wasn't here then.
Sure, yeah.
The towns all got together, and the state, again, was giving grant money. We entered a contract, or the 3 towns entered a contract with the state to help offset a large
So like
part.
this program isn't mandated by the state, this is something we voluntarily chose to do as a town.
Correct.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
The cost.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, also, to get the professional support. So the lady over there, Betsy Fidgel, for umpteen years, kind of acted like a Board of Health agent was with an administrative assistant, executive administrative assistant. And we did not anywhere near cover what we need to be covered. And so it was a great opportunity for the town to partner through that grant program.
Yes, if we did nurse. Oh, there we are.
So we're gonna do Jeanine, so I know I kind of talked too much. So
I'll be quick.
I messed up the schedule, so I apologize for that. Janine's going next.
So a big part of the public health, so we have our, my side of things and Carrie's side is enforcement and inspections, but a really big part is the public health nursing and the services provided. So I can't even begin to touch on how amazing the nursing program is, but I'll let Jeanine quick give a little
Thank you.
talk on that.
And we should say that you're gonna do this twice, right?
I am?
So,
Why am I gonna do it twice? Oh, maybe.
yeah.
But if it's the same people, I won't have to do it twice.
All right.
So my name is Jeanine Murphy. I live in North Attleboro. I've been a nurse since 1989, and I've been working with Wrentham Public Health since 2018, just before COVID-19. A lot of it changed. I've been working with Lauren Hewitt since 2017. She's in Wrentham primarily, and Alicia Deptula, who's in Franklin. And she came on in 2021 when we formed the Alliance. So as Matt said, we regionalized with Norfolk and Franklin under the statewide Public Health Excellence Grant, forming Metacomet Public Health Alliance with shared nursing and inspectional services across the 3 towns. Some of the services that the nursing department offers here in Norfolk are blood pressure clinics at the Council on Aging and at Hillcrest Village, which include vital signs, glucose screening, pulse oximetry. We also have an Ask the Nurse program that's been very successful at the Norfolk Council on Aging. It includes half-hour visits by appointment every Wednesday and town hall visits here on Tuesdays. And I also go into people's homes if they're unable to get to me to help them with things like wound care, medications, teaching, injection assistance, patient portals, just navigating our healthcare system as it can get very complicated. We have a large medical equipment loan program, which saves a lot of folks some money. You can borrow any medical equipment that we have for any length of time, and all we ask is that it be returned when it's no longer needed, cleaned and in good condition so that we can pass it on to somebody else who needs it. We offer yearly flu clinics at the Council on Aging and Hillcrest, and several other town businesses such as Joe Fran and Camger. I don't have this year's statistics yet, but last year we did 16 flu clinics and gave over 650 vaccines. I also go to people's homes who can't get out for the flu shots as well. Some of our health education programs we have offered are Stop the Bleed, regular and hands-free, hands-only CPR. It would be tough to be hands-free, wouldn't it? COVID versus the flu versus the cold, nutritional counseling, PET CPR. And thanks to the generosity of the Friends of the Norfolk Elderly, we provide nutritional supplements like Ensure, and as well as adult briefs for those who need them. We assist patients and families to navigate the complex healthcare system and advocate for our seniors and refer to community resources such as adult day health, assisted living, home care, mental health services, and referrals to HESCO, which is an elderly services resource in the area. We host a yearly vendor fair with over 25 vendors specifically geared towards seniors' needs. And this year, new this year, we hosted a community baby shower for members across the 3 towns in our catchment area with all free items such as diapers, formula toys, car seats from collaboration with Safe Coalition in Franklin. And a lot of our seniors made favors, booties, hats, blankets that we gave out. And it was a big success. We assist the inspectors, Matt and Carrie, with emergency planning and the camp inspections, making sure that the children have their vaccinations and their physicals within the time frame. We attend 2 conferences yearly, the Massachusetts Association of Public Health Nurses and the MHOA, which is the Massachusetts Health Officers Association, for furthering our education and for networking with other public health nurses. We perform communicable disease investigations via MAVEN. MAVEN is the Massachusetts Virtual Epidemiological Network. And this last, I have last year's numbers for diseases, but there's foodborne illnesses, and there's tick-borne illnesses, there's COVID, there's a lot of things that we have to track. And we work very closely with the inspectional services. So for instance, if someone gets sick, they go to the hospital, they have nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, they get tested and they have a communicable disease. It goes into a Department of Public Health database, comes down to whatever jurisdiction they live in. In our case, it's Franklin, Norfolk, and Wrentham. And then we take a step in the investigation, the first step, and we call them up and we ask them where they've eaten, what they've shopped for. We put it all into the system. It goes back to DPH. DPH looks at the whole thing and says, look, there's someone from Norfolk who bought lettuce at the Big Y. Oh, look, there's someone from Franklin too, so they have the bigger picture. And that's how things get pulled off the shelves when several people get sick from certain items. It can also happen in restaurants, in which case we would send the inspectors out to go check the restaurant, make sure the temperatures are at the right temperature. We did a couple of site visits to the Clark Street shelter. I have a small column in the newsletter at the senior center, and work very closely with the senior center staff, especially the outreach coordinator, Becky, and the resident service coordinator, Erin, at Hillcrest. And we have two fairly new programs that have been working out great. One is the Solo Agers group, which helps exactly that, solo agers, people who don't have a good support system, and that's been very successful. And the new memory cafe that we're holding at the library for caregivers and for people with dementia. So that's it. Any questions?
If I can just add,
Absolutely.
in terms of like the budget-wise, you got the questions there. The minimum that's 100% required by the state is the communicable disease follow-up. Prior to the alliance being formed, the town had a B&A service that is the only thing they did, and it was the bare bones minimum. So all of this is all extra that we're getting because of the towns getting together. And I won't speak on behalf of the senior center and them, but yes.
Has there been any case of alpha Gale syndrome in Norfolk yet?
No.
Okay, cool, awesome.
So is there a map we can look at for the Metacomet region? To see, like on a monthly basis, what the diseases are in that area, or the
Yeah, when we used to have it like a web
A dashboard.
dashboard. Thank you.
Yeah.
For COVID-19 to kind of show where
Yeah, I'm
levels
thinking
were
about
at, but
wider than that, like, like you said, tick-borne diseases and.
It's in the annual report that I do for the calendar year. I mean, I can let you look at this from last year. There was not a lot. There was one babibiosis, one norovirus, no, two norovirus, one campylobacter, one human granulocytic anaplasmosis, 83 influenza, 105 novel coronavirus, 2 pertussis, 1 salmonellosis, 26 tuberculosis, and 1 varicella.
What was the increase in tuberculosis over the year over year? Have we seen a huge increase in that?
Probably the migrants at the shelter.
Yeah, I just wonder if we've seen an increase we've just seen it in Massachusetts increase quite a bit, right? Well, when I say quite a bit, it's...
We're having more and more.
Right,
And
okay.
measles too.
Sure, okay.
And I'm only 14 hours a week in Norfolk. The rest of the time I'm in Wrentham.
So you're saying we're gonna wait for an annual report to see this for the whole year? Or
I mean, we could run a report, we just don't usually.
I think it'd be helpful to know, especially going into flu season, on a monthly basis,
Mhm.
what the heck is out there and, what we're susceptible to and, what was the famous tick-borne disease?
Babesiosis,
No,
Lyme's disease.
HGA.
Well, there's Lyme, there's
Yeah.
Watson,
I've
and
had that a
alpha
couple
Gale
times.
syndrome.
That's nasty.
Yeah, that's what some of these other ones, babesiosis, human granulocytic anaplasmosis, those are all a kind of Lyme.
And stuff like, the mosquito stuff is,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep, and they are available on mass.gov.
on a monthly basis there.
I think so.
Was there any
For the whole
Tick-borne.
Triple E this year in Norfolk?
no triple E.
Oh, I didn't hear
West
about
Nile virus, there
Yes.
were a couple mosquitoes pulled out of sample pools,
Sure.
but no human or animal cases. Usually the triple E comes on a 8 to 10 year cycle.
Okay.
So I think our last bad triple E year was 2022.
Right? Yeah, I think
21 or 22.
Yeah.
So it'll be a few more years before we really see a bad year.
Good? Everybody good?
Good. Good.
Hi, good evening. My name is Susan Jacobson. I'm the Affordable Housing Director. I've just celebrated my 15th year with the town, and I have lived in town for 31 years. I have 3 kids. They've all gone through the Norfolk King Philip school system, and I consider myself fortunate to live in this wonderful community and work here. I work with the Affordable Housing Trust Board. We have 7 members. Currently, we have 6. We are waiting for the appointment of a new town administrator. In my 15 years here, we've had both a select board on the board, and we've had 2 town administrators on the board. The state does require that one or the other is part of our board makeup. They're camera shy, but here's everybody again. We don't have any pictures. I do have a video and a link up. I don't know if with what we've got for time, if you want me to hold on that, if you want me to go ahead. It's about 3 minutes. If we're on a time crunch, for folks, what time are we?
30 stop.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and run this if you don't mind. Except why isn't it letting me? Oh, hold on, enable edit link.
Yes, we don't have this.
Betsy, can you start it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Volume up?
Yeah, there
Yeah,
is.
there's sound.
I can hear it, but the TV needs to get turned up, I think.
Oh, boy.
Originally a small
There we go.
community in 1669, Norfolk today maintains its country character and is a bedroom community on the commuter train line going into Boston. In 1968, the United States government passed the Fair Housing Act. In response, Massachusetts passed the Comprehensive Permit Act, which required each town and city in the Commonwealth to have a minimum of 10% of their housing units be affordable to low and moderate income families as established by the state standards. The Norfolk Municipal Affordable Housing Trust was then established by a unanimous town vote on May 9, 2006, in accordance with the state of Massachusetts general laws. The mission of the Affordable Housing Trust is to provide for the creation and preservation of affordable housing in Norfolk for the benefit of low to moderate income families. To accomplish this, the trust will buy and/or build homes and then sell them through a lottery system at a discounted price to qualified buyers. To date, Norfolk has close to 200 affordable homes, which includes single-family homes, condominiums, and apartments, and accounts for around 6% of all Norfolk dwellings. The trust works closely with the town planner and the planning board in efforts to achieve the goal of 10% or more affordable homes in Norfolk. And the trust is currently investigating providing affordable housing services to other nearby towns in an effort to form a regional affordable housing organization. In historical summary, the Norfolk Affordable Housing Trust, after its inception, began to search for properties that would meet the trust model for purchase. The first project was actually moving a house from one location to another. This was soon followed by working with a national home builder who, in agreement, constructed 4 new homes on property owned by the town of Norfolk. A lottery was then conducted, and qualified prospective buyers were independently drawn from a hat and then purchased the homes. In the future, the Norfolk Affordable Housing Trust will continue to search for homes that meet its purchase and sale model, striving to create and preserve affordable housing for low and moderate income families. When developers build multiple housing units in Norfolk, the town has established an inclusionary zoning bylaw, which requires the developer to provide affordable housing units per a specific formula based on a number of units being built, whether they be single-family homes, condominiums, or apartments. In 2017, the trust contracted an outside consulting firm to establish a housing production plan for the town of Norfolk. This plan was then certified by the state of Massachusetts in 2017. The housing production plan has been updated, renewed, and certified in 2022, as is required every 5 years by the state, and details and describes the development and growth expectations for Norfolk. The current housing production plan can be viewed on this website. As Norfolk continues to grow, the Norfolk Municipal Affordable Housing Trust will work diligently to meet the requirements of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to provide affordable housing for low and moderate income families.
Great. So we did that video, I believe, in 2023. It's on our website. I'm not under departments, under government, because we are a board. I will continue now with a little bit more of what we do. As Tom said, we purchase single-family homes for our subsidized housing inventory, and we hold lotteries to sell those homes to affordable buyers. We provide lottery services. I am a certified lottery agent by both the Department of Housing and Community Development, now known as EHOLC, and Mass Housing. So when a developer comes to town with a 40B project, I typically am the individual that represents that developer, provides an affordable fair marketing plan that's approved by the state, one of those two agencies, and then I take those units through that marketing plan into a lottery. Applicants are selected, and I work with those applicants until the home is closed. I attend the closings. The town is paid for 9 units or less, 2.5% of the price of the home, and for 10 units or more, it's 2%. That fee comes directly into the trust, and that offsets my salary. I also oversee a program, just of the few of the things that I do. It's called a RIPA program. It's a Retire in Place Assistance. I advertise and review applications for folks, and I submit redacted applications to the trust for approval. It's a new program that we rolled out a couple of years ago. It allows home buyers some examples are grab bars or railings, an additional railing going down a stairway so they have 2 to hold on to. We repaired some cellar stairs that were in pretty tough shape for an individual that still had a washer and dryer downstairs. It's not a home improvement fund, it is a retire in place fund, and we have had great success with that. We funded $25,000 a year for that, and that funding comes again from the lottery fee services. We can't take that out of our budget. We update the housing production plan. Well, it's good for 5 years. Rich and I typically start working on it when it's into year 3. Our housing production plan will expire. Someone had a question asking if we were in safe harbor. We are not at this time. And our housing production plan expires in October of 2027. So we are already actively trying to start to get to work on that. The budget for the trust in fiscal year 26, I am the one and only that is in the Affordable Housing Trust that's paid. The salary is $98,675.20. Our expenses do vary year to year, but they're minimal because it's what I need as far as office expenses go. We do pay to advertise these units, but that, again, is offset by the fees that we receive as a lottery. Funding comes from the CPA tax that we are at 1.5%. We were a community that was at 3%. I believe maybe in 2017, the town voted to reduce that to 1.5%. It also comes from home sales of the units that we sell. Obviously not the 40B units, that money goes to the developer, but from any single-family homes that we have purchased and sold. Really what got us really rolling was when that developer built 4 homes on Norfolk-owned land, and we got the sale from those 4 units. We also have a wonderful relationship with our Community Preservation Committee. They're tremendous supporters of the Affordable Housing Trust and have given the trust well over $1.5 million over the years as a resource. The trust was established on May 9th in 2006 at the annual town meeting. It is mandated by Mass General Laws, GL 44, Section 55C, for the purpose of establishing a municipal housing trust. Projects, recent, current, future. I sold 10 affordable homes at the Enclave, which is off of Village Green on Avery Way. I sold 8 affordable units at the Village at Norfolk, which is right off of Rockwood Road. We established the RIPA program, Retire in Place Assistance for seniors, and we are assisting a local community with starting a very similar program. I just opened Waits Crossing, which is down off of Lawrence Street. This lottery will include the sale of 16 affordable 2, 3, and 4-bedroom units. I've opened 8 4-bedroom units. That lottery will take place in November. We will be opening the additional 8 at a later date, probably late spring. We opened Lakeland Hills, which is off of Seekonk Street, which includes 11 3 and 4-bedroom units. I have sold 4 of those units. We have 7 to go. It is quite a process. It takes about 3 years for these projects from the time the shovels are in the ground until the time we sell the last units. And we've purchased 17 single-family homes through a local initiative program and secured them as local action units on our subsidized housing inventory.
Can I just ask a question about the RIPA program?
Sure.
With the Retire in Place, has the town looked at helping the seniors deal with the increases in taxes, property taxes? So if someone's lived here, they own their house, there's no mortgage on it, allowing the seniors to pay a reduced tax rate?
So that is not something that we have jurisdiction over. Our assessor's office does have different programs for folks that are within certain income brackets. I know that they have a veterans program for vets, and they have a senior work-off program where a senior can come in and work, and we run that program through the Council on Aging. I currently have a senior assisting me right now. They're paid, they're not paid, but they're charged a monthly rate, and that comes off their taxes. I believe it's $750 a year, but I'm not sure. But that's something that our assessing office.
If there's anything we could do through the RIP program to help lower the taxes a lot more, because they are
The problem is
pushing seniors out of the town.
Right, the problem is the funding mechanism and what we can spend our money on, and that's not one of the items that they allow at this time.
Doesn't the state have to approve that reduction to property tax? I thought somebody said that the state has to approve it.
I don't really know because the assessor handles that, so it's not something that I can speak to.
Is that controlled by us like you said, this is mandated, but we obviously voted this in in 2006, so is this something that we as citizens could petition to have that put in part of our bylaws? Since we don't have a charter that with the state, we have our own bylaws, we get to determine our own fate. Isn't that something we could write up as a warrant on a citizen's petition to basically establish that RIPA program?
That's taxes, or that we can assist with taxes?
Not to assist with taxes, they get a lower tax rate based on the eligibility of their income and if they own a mortgage, they own the house outright, and they meet a certain requirements, they obviously should. I mean, they've already paid their taxes to the town. They've done a lot for the
Right,
country.
so-
They've done stuff. They need a break.
I'm going to defer to town council on that because
Okay.
I don't know what.
All right, I'll ask town council and town administrator. That's something we could take
Or
through town bylaws.
you can put it through and we can get back to you on it, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't want to speak to something that
No,
I
absolutely.
don't.
I'll talk to council and the town administrator. I've done it on a bunch of things, so
All
I have
right,
no
if
problem going to
anything
them.
comes of it, come see me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'd
Okay.
just like to help the seniors out if we
I
could.
just have one observation about that. I know that if you have your home in trust, which we do
Sure.
now,
We
it
can't
makes
hear
you.
you.
Oh, if you have your home in trust, I was told that it makes you ineligible for some
Right,
of
I was
the.
told
Yeah, yeah. If you put your house in a
programs and
trust,
things
it
like
does.
that.
Right, because
yeah.
if you give your house in a trust to a trustee, they then become the owners of that property.
Right, so you would have to own it yourself, which the trust does protect you from the state. Right, right.
The kids get the benefit
Oh
of
yeah, I
it
was just
someday.
gonna ask, so it sounds like anytime there's a new subdivision, there's like a requirement depending on the number of units. Do we ever give waivers to developers that they don't have to?
So we have had one development come to town in my 15 years here where they provided a cash payout. It really was at our suggestion, if you will. They built 14 homes. The homes were well over $1 million. They were extremely large homes, and the homes cannot look any different from the outside. So they have to build a facade. If the rest of the homes are 3,500 square feet, while they may not finish the room over the garage, the home still is a 3,500 square foot home. And in smaller developments like that, it's not always in the best interest of the family, who's the affordable family, to be one family that got one home at a reduced rate. Whereas in our 40B developments, it's 25% of the family. So there's not just one single family. We have not had a traditional subdivision come before us since that one, correct, Rich? So we have not had that happen.
With these houses, if someone wins the lottery and they get into the house, is there a stipulation on sale of the home to not make, like this, does the town get first right to take the house back and sell it? Like, I get them making a little bit of money based on inflation, but like, you sell someone a house for $350,000, yet it's in a $800,000 neighborhood. They can't, if they live there for 2 years, they can't just turn around and sell it for $800,000 2
Correct.
years.
It's
Okay.
deed restricted in perpetuity.
Okay.
So there is a formula that's used. There are many different things that are tied to it. The most significant I've seen anyone earn is we have folks that bought in 2013, and it was one of our local action units. Were able at that point to be priced significantly lower. I think they're going to make $65,000 all said and done.
Yeah.
So, and we don't have to buy the property back. We resell it to an affordable buyer because of the deed
Sure.
restriction.
Okay. All right. Right. Okay.
Right.
That makes sense.
So you mentioned it was 10% and 25%?
So a 40B development, the requirement is 25%.
Okay.
All 40B developments must provide 25% affordable housing.
So that's 25%. The outside may look the same, but the inside can be,
Correct, so the
Totally.
inside does not have to have hardwood floors throughout, those are all up, so anything that's considered an upgrade
right.
is not required to be put
So
inside.
to make them affordable, the developer can put in Formica countertops and the particle board cabinets and all that stuff.
Yeah, I will tell you that I have not seen in any of our 40B developments Formica countertops or really low-grade.
Not even the ones uptown off the
Nope,
street there?
they all have,
Crossing?
they all have granite countertops. Yep, yep. Go ahead.
Oh, where on the website is there information about that?
So it's under the affordable housing, and that is under boards and committees, because we are not funded at all from the town budget.
Because one thing I had talked to some neighbors about, there's a bunch of us that have large houses and low budgets. And
So what hurts the
taxes
folks-
are really,
What hurts the folks in Norfolk that have large homes and low budgets is the equity that you've built in your home while living here. There is an asset and an income requirement. If you are over the age of 55 and it is a over 55 community, your assets cannot exceed $275,000. If it is not an over 55 development, your assets cannot exceed $75,000. The income limits are the same for both projects.
can you explain?
So if you're over the age of 55 and you are able to get into any over 55 community in Massachusetts that has an affordable unit, your assets, meaning equity from your home, bank accounts, CDs, 401ks, IRAs, cannot exceed $275,000. And what I find with most folks here that have lived here a long time and potentially own their homes or are close to owning their homes, the equity far exceeds the
But you have to
$275,000.
pay capital gains, so that takes a good chunk of the equity anyway.
It does, but most folks that have come and met with me still have more than the $275,000. I'm happy to review it with anybody that would like to come up. I might add that I really am almost more of a real estate broker, if you will. So I don't come into work at 8 and leave at 6. I show properties in the evening, the weekends. I meet some buyers that have lived in town for a long time, are not comfortable to come to Town Hall and see Sue Jacobson because everybody knows what Sue Jacobson does, so I'll meet them off-site. So I always tell folks to give me a call before you come up. As crazy as it may sound, my phone is forwarded to my personal cell phone, because sometimes it's just easier to take the calls than to try to get back to everybody. So again, I'm happy to meet with anybody to kind of run through the scenario and see if somebody's close.
Yes, as if you're older and you want to stay in town. It's challenging.
It is challenging. I agree.
What is the turnover of these affordable housing? Like, how long, are they staying long-term, and are they monitored, like if they've got increases, obviously?
So increases in their income doesn't matter in a purchase. In a rental, you have to requalify every year. Once I take it to close, a monitoring agent steps in, and they monitor the property. They do a really good job. From our local initiative program, the 17 homes that we've bought, only one has been sold. Everybody else has stayed. The 40B developments, we've had one foreclosure in the 15 years that I've been here. And we do have a monitoring agent for these projects that they stay on top of it. If they believe that there's a violation could potentially be, Boyd's Crossing, for example. Those units are restricted to being 2-bedroom units, and there's 2 people allowed per bedroom. So if you have more than that living in your home and that's discovered, the folks either have to leave the premises, the extra folks that are there, or you have to make the decision to probably sell the unit if they can't leave. That's because it's on a shared septic system, so they're trying to make sure that system doesn't fail. They do write to every owner every year. They have to, swear under pains and penalties of perjury that it's their primary residence, that they're not renting it out. So from what I've seen after the sale, there is a lot of monitoring that still goes on. If you wish to do any improvements to the property, you have to go through the monitoring agent, and it's not because they want to know what you're doing in your home, but they want to, if you're making a capital improvement like a roof or a driveway, they want to capture that so when you go to sell the property, they can depreciate it, but maybe get you some additional funding for making that kind of a capital improvement.
Is there any long-term data on doing this for people, how it benefits them in the long run and the families in the long run? Like, is there a way that we can see, like, okay, we provided this, so now it's created a generational, I don't want to say wealth, but obviously it could be like
Right.
a generational wealth that this is a...
There's not something that we track.
Okay.
We try to be extremely cautious of providing too much information about these families.
Well, and I guess I'm not asking for names or any of that. I'm just, does the state track this to show that this program actually works?
I would have to probably say no to that.
Okay.
Because I'm not asked for any data.
Okay.
Okay?
So you mentioned this is 6%. We have 6% median.
So that was a few years ago, and this is one of my trickier pieces to explain. So the subsidized housing inventory number is very fluid. And the reason that it's fluid is because when a developer gets a project eligibility letter and comes into Rich and says, here's my project eligibility letter, I'm gonna start a 40-unit 40B development project. They go through the approval process through the boards, and then at some point, which usually takes about a year to get through our zoning board of appeals, if not longer, once they get the decision, the permits issue, the permitting board issues the decision, they go to our town clerk, they make sure that everything's above board, our town clerk stamps it in, the clock starts ticking. Those 10 units, say, are added onto our subsidized housing inventory. If those units are not occupied, and they will not be occupied in 1 year, they fall off of our subsidized housing inventory until that project is complete and we reapply. Every June, we send them occupancy permits of the units that are done, and they get added back on. So when this video was done, we were at 6% because we had Lakeland Hills was permitted, Lakeland Farms was permitted, Boyd's Crossing was permitted, the Village was permitted. Lakeland Hills is not complete. They all fell off. The Village we just added those units back on in June.
So what do you think the number is today?
I think the number today is somewhere around 5%.
It's low. Still falling behind.
Well, we just, don't forget, in 2022, our new census came out. So our number was increased from prior to this video.
So these developers come in, I get the sense they're making millions of dollars on these projects.
only allowed to make 20% profit on the projects.
20% of what, the total revenue of?
The builder itself is only allowed to make 20%,
And they
but
are
it doesn't
audited-
matter.
They are audited by Mass Housing. Correct, Rich?
Yeah, they are.
Is everything per diem? You have to use union, or you can use private contractors that don't pay per diem wage? So you don't have to pay per diem? Okay.
If it's $1 million project,
Well,
they make
very
$200,000.
little under money is the
That's my
construction.
understanding, but they're committed to only
So, would
20%.
you say it would make sense to have a developer who swoops in, makes this money, and then he's out of here, because he doesn't have to live here? It makes sense to have them contribute something, the developer, to the town to offset the burden on the schools and the infrastructure and all the other support services.
Well, what he's contributing, as far as the state's concerned, is the affordable units at a significantly
Yeah, but he's not
discounted
contributing
rate.
anything to the town, is he?
He's not required to.
No, and that's what I'm saying. Would it make sense to have the developer who swoops in, makes a bundle of money, and then swoops out of here, to have him contribute something to the town? The state's getting something for what he's doing. We're not getting anything.
Yeah,
Except
you know,
for-
I'm not, Jack, I'm not really in a position to speak confidently to that, you know.
So the one thing you can say, Sue, is that the schools are, like I said earlier, they're off limits.
Off limits.
That's not something negotiable.
Well, can you-
40B?
Can you,
What do you mean?
what do you mean by that, though? What do you mean they're off? So their kids that move into 40B don't go to our public schools?
No, they do.
So they're not off
Well, he's
limits?
talking about compensation to the town because of the impact, I think, right?
Not only the schools,
No,
all
but
the
the
infrastructure that we've supported. Water, fire, police.
Right, so that's not by law.
Non-negotiable with the
Non-negotiable.
state.
However, developers have made public improvements. So for instance, they've improved roads, they put sidewalks in, they've extended water lines. So as part of the development, there is public improvements that are done. They're just not the done,
It's not like they can't afford it.
So I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. What if we just say no? What can the state, like, I guess I wanna know what financial repercussions does the town have if we just say no? Has any town tried this? I know towns have, and
Yeah,
the
so
state tries to
essentially
sue
when
them and
you're
it's still in
below
court.
10%, no is really not an option, because what they do is they'll appeal to the Housing Appeals Committee.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have functional reason to deny it, you're gonna lose. And towns lose all the time.
But we have financial reason to deny it.
It's not a under 40B, it's not a, because you have to, the way the statute is structured, and you can't render a project uneconomic. So putting those things on there is gonna make a project uneconomic, which you're gonna lose. And that's unfortunately, the challenge in terms of with these.
We
You
went,
can't tell the developer you want, I think she mentioned an example where you recommended that somebody develop it, didn't you?
he bought out of having to provide an affordable unit.
So that's not a 40B though.
Okay,
Correct.
then
That was a
let's
traditional
just talk
subdivision.
40B. You can't tell the 40B developer, hey, would like, 10 grand to go to the town.
This is a cash payment to the town?
Yeah, well, a one-time payment.
A one-time payment.
I mean, you might be able, depends
I
on
mean-
what it's for. I mean, you can't get, I'm not saying you can't get
It
anything.
sounds like we haven't tried it.
No,
Oh, no, we've tried it.
We've tried
We've
it.
tried it.
Yeah, we've tried
What'd
it.
they say, no?
But I guess I'm lost if you can do, obviously the math is there and the data is there. You can show to the state how this financially burdens the town.
But it financially burdens many towns, Ben. So if we
like-
want to spend money litigating that,
Yeah.
right? Rich wasn't here at this time, but I went with Sean Dooley when he was our state representative, and there were many other folks from other communities. We went to the State House and we spoke to folks and said, we have a water issue for the folks that live in our town now. We have public safety issues. We have schools that, we're already looking to build a new school. This was before the Freeman Kennedy was built. And there were probably 100 communities in there, all saying the same thing. And it's not, so again, could we litigate it? We could litigate it, but there's case law and case study that shows the communities that have lost. And so do we want to spend, is that money available in the budget to spend? So again, I'm happy to speak with anybody in more detail about this, but I want to keep it moving so that our building commissioner, Dave, gets to be started. We spoke about let's build a town. I think we're going to let Dave speak before we
Yeah,
build our
Dave's
town.
gonna speak before we build a new town.
So, again, thanks. My name is Sue Jacobson. If anybody has any questions,
Thanks,
please
Sue.
give me a call and we'd be happy to get together.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay?
Sue.
Thank you. I'm good, thank you. Yeah,
Sue's
here,
awesome.
let me help you. Rich?
Yeah,
Can you
Sue's
pull up?
awesome.
That's my aunt, I'm like, I just met someone who's
Oh,
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
You got it?
I am.
Thank you
Well,
again.
that's just for him, yeah. Do you see it?
All three.
We can click through to the first three. All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Dave Kulikowski. I am the newly appointed building commissioner / zoning enforcement officer. And I'm going to cut my mission a little short tonight just in the interest of time. But my goal tonight is to hopefully enlighten all of you guys to shed the bad rap that the building department gets. Okay, we are probably one of the most shunned and taboo departments in the building, in the town hall. So my goal tonight is to try to hopefully shed some light on us and what we really do, and take us from the department of no to the department of no. We want to cast that knowledge on you, okay? So when I say that we are the department of no, I really mean it. It doesn't come just from me, okay? It comes from an entire team that's in the department. And the surprising part, there is only a handful of us. And our team above here, myself and Kathy, we are the two full-timers in the office, okay? Kathy is my rock star. She's super knowledgeable. She's gonna be your first line of contact. She is going to be the one that is going to answer your basic questions and give you some basic guidance. When it starts getting a little bit more complex and technical, that's where I step in, and I'm gonna give you a little bit more information, okay? My three inspectors, Lou, Peter, Paul, they are my three primary guys. These guys are part-timers, all right? And combined, we're gonna show you what we handle. But the thing that these three guys bring the most to this table beyond their decades of experience is passion to what we do in this department, okay? Now, we all wear a number of different hats in the department, because we don't just manage just the building department stuff. When we go out there, we're looking at potential violations or potential situations that cross everything from planning, Board of Health, conservation, everybody, okay? We start off with zoning and planning. They tell us what can be built, and then the building department says how that gets built, all right? So zoning, we're gonna talk a little bit about here. Zoning, as a zoning enforcement officer, I make sure the small projects, the decks, the additions, the pool, all fit in with our town bylaws. The planning department, the land use, they're the big picture thing, okay? Working together, we're what keep Norfolk's charm intact while allowing it to grow responsibly. Safety is our number one concern in the building department. Once we know what can be built, our focus shifts to how it gets built. Every plan we review, every inspection we perform is designed to stop problems before they start. Electrical fires, structural fails, and unsafe conditions are all of our top priority. Here's something that most people don't realize. The building department is a service department. We're educators before we're enforcers. Okay, and I'm gonna make a key point on this. Homeowners walk in with questions or maybe confusion, and we walk them through the process. This is, the more people know, the smoother your projects go, the fewer mistakes, fewer delays, and better outcomes for your projects. Our partnership, like I said, we don't work in isolation. Every day we coordinate with fire department, health department, conservation, and planning. A partnership that keeps Norfolk permitting system consistent, predictable, and fast. It's how we turn a government into teamwork. We're gonna go to slide number 4 now. Yeah. Okay, so this is where we start seeing the impact of what the building department does. For a town our size, the sheer volume, I'm honestly surprised by what we accomplished, and we'll get to into those numbers in a few minutes. What we handle can actually surprise everybody, and we'll get to that point number in a minute. Every deck, every basement, or business built crosses my desk and the desks of my other inspectors. Before a nail is hammered, one of us has already been there. Each inspection is a quiet, collaborative effort towards a yes. We operate on a budget of about $374,000. That's fiscal year 2026, and nearly every dollar comes from permit fees. In other words, growth funds safety. We are one of the few departments here in the building that are actually actively paid for oversight. What matters most in our department is consistency. Whether you're a first-time homeowner, a developer with 10 projects, the rules apply evenly, zoning and building codes, okay? We're not handpicking and making rules different for everybody that comes through. And this is why we work hand in hand with planning department. Behind all of these numbers are the real people, families that are adding bedrooms, businesses that are expanding, contractors that are earning a living. We're not just stamping paper, we're safeguarding dreams built on concrete and wood. Even with thousands of inspections a year, we modernize how we do it. Faster, simpler, and smarter, because safety shouldn't mean bureaucracy. Let me show you how we're building the department into the 21st century. Our department, surprisingly, is one of the very few towns that have 100% of our permits digitized. I have come from different building departments. We have rows and rows and rows of filing cabinets with files and files and files. The history of your homes, the history of the building, the history of the town, all in a rolling cabinet. Here in town, we have it all digitized. My predecessor was smart in 2020. He took funding that we got and time that was available to him, and he had it all digitized. For the present, right now, what we're working on is we're working to streamline how permits get processed. Which means whether I have a developer that's meeting with Rich that's going to have 140 units, or whether it's you that want to build a deck or renovate your bathroom. Everything is going to be consistent across the boards. Everybody still has to provide the same amount of paperwork, same amount of information, so that we can process it all the exact same. In the future, what we're working on is trying to take and streamline the information, educate our residents to what is required for what needs a permit and what doesn't need a permit. You'll be surprised. If we get a chance to go through our little activity tonight, you'll see there are a number of projects that don't physically require permits. We're going to create some simple online guides and videos to help residents understand what's going to need permits and how they apply correctly. When people know the process up front, their projects succeed sooner and smoother. The heart of this Department of No is empowering you before the first hammer even gets swung. We're building a system that works better for you, the real people, right here in Norfolk. So all these upgrades aren't about tech. They are about outcome. So what does that look like in real life? It shows up in 5 ways that we want to serve you every day. And think of that promise, and think of them as our promises to the community. The community safety. Now this is where we talk about the real numbers, guys, okay? In 2024, the building department issued 1,772 permits. In 2025, to date, we've issued 1,193 permits. Each one's a checkpoint for compliance and safety. Every approval represents a home, a business, or an addition built to meet the high standards of Massachusetts building codes. That's how we keep Norfolk building resilient and families protected. Our 3 inspectors, sometimes myself included, have spent in 2024 a cumulative of 2,643 inspections. That's about 3,000 to 6,000 hours out in the field inspecting homes, businesses, and all the new buildings that have been going up in town. This year, we've done 2,111 inspections. Again, 3,000 to 4,000 hours out in the field inspecting things. Each visit prevents hazards before they even reach the final stages. Public education, again, on our website, when you have questions, that can be your first stop. We have a pretty robust, comprehensive, frequently asked questions section on the town website, on our building department website, that explains to you, what are your basic, what do you need a permit for? Can I do this? Can I do that? What's the process? Okay, and we're gonna be working to upgrade that. The goal is obviously fewer surprises, faster approval, and faster outcomes. Now, one other thing about the town of Norfolk that I love is the technology that we've implemented. We use Citizen Serve here in the town, okay? And what that does is it takes us from the old paper-style permits where I would review something, then it would have to go to the town health agent to review for Title V, then to the fire department, then to water, then to whatever other department would have to review it. Once you submit your permit, a checkbox comes into everybody's emails that has to review it, and they can review it in a much more timely fashion. Under the state codes, I have 30 days to review your permit, and that's if the permit's complete. My goal is we're cutting that time in half and even into a quarter, and we're trying to get permits out as fast as we can so that it means your projects get off the ground faster. All right, so even with thousands of transactions, we still believe in human service. Real people answering the phones with clear answers. My department is open the same time the building is open here. We encourage everybody, if you have a question about a project, stop in, check us out, see what you need. So the reason that we want you to come in is what would happen if we could help you before the first steps, before you draw your plans, before you hire a contractor, even before you buy or sell your home, okay? We don't want to be just the department you come to for an approval. We want to be your first contact. We want to be the first call. We want to be before you hire, before you design, before you buy. Right after your spouse says, honey, I think we should be your first call because we can give you guidance on what you want to do. A quick conversation with our office can reveal if there's open permits on a house that you might be interested in buying. It's not fair for you to buy somebody else's unfinished or unpermitted projects because they are really a danger to you and potentially to your insurance claims in the future, okay? We want to be more guidance, not gatekeepers. Our job is to help you understand what you can build, where, and how to do it right the first time. When you come to us early, we're not inspectors with clipboards. We're partners helping you to design compliance into the plan. Again, we work closely with planning, fire, health, conservation to get coordinated answers instead of 3 different ones. Every permit begins with a conversation. We're educators as much as we are enforcers. Our goal is for you to walk away knowing why behind the rules, because knowledge prevents mistakes. All right, so I think I'm gonna give you 5 minutes to just run through what we actually look at in a permit development, okay? Do we have?
Sure. No, for the build.
Can we pull up my permits, without permits? Guys, we're just gonna do a quick activity, okay? As the building commissioner, every time somebody comes in with an idea, I look through the binder that is the building codes. Building codes are probably one of the worst things that we can look at. So by show of hands, right hand for yes, left hand for no. Anybody that has the pink and green papers, green is yes, pink is no. We're gonna play the game. Permit or no permit, okay? So we're gonna go to the first slide. Okay, again, green is yes, pink is no, all right? Your spouse wants to build a new addition, permit or no permit? Bum-ba-da-bum, correct. All right, everybody, congratulations. All right, next slide. All right, cool. Next question. Do you want to build a new detached garage, permit or no permit?
Oh, wait, detached?
All right, answer? Yes, you do, if it's over 200
Okay,
square feet.
that's why I win.
So most garages, at 200 is, 200 square foot is a 10 by 12, that's barely one car, so.
Right.
Okay, next question. Parents buy a huge playground set, permit or no permit? Whoa, amazing. Absolutely correct. It's part of 105.2. It is some of the exempt work that does not require a permit. Now, if that same playground was being constructed at the local town park, permit or no permit? Yes, awesome, I love this. All right, let's go back. You're painting your living room walls, permit or no permit? Woo, I like the pinks. All right, guys, nice job. All right, next question. Replacing kitchen cabinets, same layout. Ooh, and the answer, please? Yes and no, okay? Under 105.2, cabinets, countertops, similar materials, tile work does not actually require a permit. However, if you take the sink out, you change faucets, certain things like that, you would. That's why we have kind of a blended question. You would need potentially your electrical and your plumbing permit. Question?
I do all my own work. Do I need a permit?
If you do your own work, that's a great question. Yes, you do. If you cannot do electrical or plumbing work, you need to have a licensed plumber or a licensed electrician pull your permit. Anything else, you're allowed to do under your own work. I do want to be clear though, when you come into the office, if you have a contractor that says to you, hey, I'd like for you to pull my permit as a homeowner, I'm always going to educate you and recommend that you don't do that. And the reason for that is the contractors are required to have 2 licenses. They're required to have their CSL, construction supervisor license, but they're also required to have their home improvement contractor license. The home improvement contractor license isn't so much of a license, it's a fund that they pay into. And should they short you or stop work on your project and leave you hanging, you can have some recourse. You can contact the BBRS, the Board of Building Regulations and Standards, and you can request funding for that to cover the rest of your project. Yes?
Well, I'd like to add a quick little thing there. I didn't know all of this, and we hired a contractor, and he told me he was licensed and insured and everything. And he ended up walking away with about $25,000 worth of our money.
And unfortunately...
And I couldn't do anything because he
Yeah.
didn't have the license.
All right,
Yes.
we're gonna we got a couple minutes, couple more questions really quick here, guys, and then we're gonna wrap this up, okay? Question?
Yeah, just, you cannot do your own electrical work if you own the house?
You cannot do electrical work, you cannot do plumbing work on your own.
Hey, can you change like a light fixture?
So, great
And I,
question.
like,
If you're changing like for like, you do not always need a permit.
okay, right. Like if I'm going a ceiling fan to new ceiling fan.
Yep. There are certain things you
Right.
can replace.
Sure.
Replacing old windows with new ones. Permit or no permit, guys? Really quick, couple more
Ooh, I
questions.
think it's that now.
Question, answer, yes. Okay, this is part of your building envelope, so it's required. One more. Electrical hot water tank. How many have replaced a hot water tank recently? No? Cool, all right, well, what's the answer? You definitely need a permit, especially if it's a gas-fired one. You need a gas permit, plumbing permit. If it's electrical, you need your electrical permit, okay?
With a, can I ask one question about if it's electric hot water heater, do we need both an electrician and a plumber?
If it's an electric one, yes, you need an electrical
Yep, okay.
and a plumbing one, because
Okay.
even just the simple connections at the
Yep,
top,
yep.
Water tanks, your boilers, heating systems, those are all major system components that require to be more than just a simple connect everything at the top, couple of wires, okay?
Sure, yep.
All right, replacing a boiler, yes, you would need it. One more, replacing a cracked outlet cover. Exactly, no permit on that one, okay? And final question, question number 10. Installing a ceiling fan. Permit or no permit? All right, what do we got? It actually does need a permit under the electrical codes and under my codes, because you are changing out, you might be changing the motor size, you might be changing the weight size, you might be changing how it's attached to the ceiling. So for a ceiling fan, if you wanted to upgrade, change it.
If it's the exact same model number.
I would be shocked. I would be shocked. That was.
Hey, you gotta know sometimes.
And you don't have any
Because it's more
ceiling
of the
fans, right?
electrical
No
thing,
ceiling
that's when
fans?
you
I've
wanna,
none, yeah.
that's when you wanna contact the electrical inspector.
Not on my permits anyways.
I have a general question.
General question,
General
so-
question.
Oh, yeah.
Not permit or not. You were hired as the commissioner. We recently posted for a building inspector part-time. What's the difference?
Great question.
What's
Great
the function
question.
difference?
Great question. So as the building commissioner, I'm the head of the department. I am authorized under Massachusetts General Law 780 CMR, the building codes, I am the one that can formally issue most permits. I'm the one that is only allowed, unless I give control, is to sign an occupancy permit. So if you're building a brand new house, if my local inspector tries to sign in a permit while I'm in the department, it would not be a valid occupancy permit. But that's a great question. And yes, we did. It's our local inspector is taking a page out of our former building commissioner's page, and he's sailing off into retirement. So we're hoping we'll have somebody on board with me soon, because as you can see, we process a large number of permits for a fairly small town with a lot of water and a lot of conservation land. So having that that person that's available to go out and do your inspections while I'm in the office answering questions, helping people out, understanding what they can do, is going to be pivotal for me. Any other questions, guys?
Yeah, I have a question. So, I disagree with you thinking that you most dislike the department. The tax collector and the assessors.
Yeah, the assessors.
I said, you're not the most disliked department in
The assessors definitely the most
disliked. The assessors and the tax collector.
Well, I agree with that. I agree with that, but we really do get a bad rap, because most people see us as the people that are gonna say no, that we're gonna make your project miserable, but we really do want to help you all make your project safe.
I want to tell you, I'm going to change my own toilet paper holders from now on. But no, the question I have is, I had a person from another town say this question to me, and I think Norfolk is the same. He has an old house like Norfolk does, and he has a house built in 1850. It's 2,000 square feet. He wants to add 1,000 square feet. He was told, because it's over a certain limit, I think it's 1,000 or 1,200, he has to upgrade or bring the entire house up to code. Is that true? I mean, he said that addition would cost.
If he's adding an addition,
Yeah.
he's not touching the main house, that would be incorrect.
Okay, he doesn't have to bring the rest of the house up to code.
No, because it's only, all the codes apply under the new construction. Now, I have a house that's being renovated here in town, down by, I forget the name of the pond there, but it was essentially a fly by the seat of his pants flipper came in trying to flip a house, and they started off cutting out a bunch of the rotted drywall, and then the commissioner, my predecessor went in, they assessed everything, and they forced them to do more work than was required. So there's as an existing building, there's 3 levels of renovation. There's a level 1, which is you're basically putting same for same. You don't have, it still requires permits, but if you take R13 out of the wall, you put R13 back.
Got it.
If you go to a level 2, you're upgrading some of the systems. Those systems have to be brought up to current codes. If you go to a level 3, which is what he did, basically the entire house is ripped down to studs. Everything has to be brought up to current codes.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, guys?
Thank you, and please do the pay sheets, that really helps us. Next week is finance in this room, so finance and budgeting is next week in this room. And put questions you want them to answer on there, please do the pay sheets. I'll put the box right here, you can throw them in the box. But we really look at them, and we're trying to do better every time, so let us know what you think.
What about dishwashers? They're plug-in dishwashers?
We're gonna come back to build
Okay,
the
cool.
town.